So here we're asked to find the remaining outputs for the quadratic function y equals x squared plus 4x minus 5. And the vertex has already been found for us. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is graph my vertex so that I have an idea of where my parabola should be. So my vertex is at -2, -9. So I go from 0, 0 to -2 down to -5, -6, -7, -8, -9. So I know my parabola is going to be somewhere over here. I'm not entirely sure where yet, but it's going to be somewhere to the left of the y-axis. The inputs are also already done for us already. The vertex -1 is -3. That's going to be the point to the left. And -4 would be 2 points to the left. -2 plus 1 would be -1. That's the point to the right. And 0. So again, if you want, you can put in the axis of symmetry. And this will show you that your parabola is going to be over here. So we just need to find the output for -1 and 0 and the output for -3 and -4. So because parabolas are reflected, we only have to plug in half of the table. So I'm going to split this in half here, and we're showing our work for calculating the outputs of the function. I would always rather deal with 0 and -1 than having to deal with outputs like -3 and -4. So I'm going to input the lower half of the table. So I'm going to input -1 and I'm going to input 0. So our function here is y equals x squared. So that would be -1 squared. And I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so that it will fit in the space that I have. Plus 4 times -1, plus 4 times -1 minus 5. So that is our function. So now I'm just going to go through and do the math. So -1 squared is -1 times -1, that's +1. Plus 4 times -1 is -4, and minus 5. Now I'm just going to simplify from left to right. 1 plus -4 is -3, minus 5, and -3 minus 5 is -8. You can also double check any of those calculations using the scientific calculator. So if I want to write this as an ordered pair, my input was -1 and my output was -8. Coming over to the side here, now we're going to input 0. 0 is always a nice, friendly input to use. If you ever have the option using 0, I highly recommend it. So we have 0 squared plus 4 times 0 minus 5. The reason why 0 is such a great input to use is because 0 times anything is always 0. So 0 squared is 0. 4 times 0 is 0. And then you're left with just minus 5. So that's 0 minus 5, and 0 minus 5 is just -5. I'm going to make this bigger again. There we go. So again, my input was 0, and my output -5. So now I have 2 additional solution points to this function. So -1, -8, and 0, -5. So now I can come down to my graph and plot those points. So from -1, I'm going down to -8, -5, -6, -7, -8, and 0, 0 down to -5. And I'm starting to see this parabola come to shape here. And I'm just going to guess that it kind of crosses over there. Now, again, I only have half of my parabola. So to find the additional half, I just have to reflect these points across. So for the output of -3, it would also be at -8. For the output of -4, it would also be at -5, or at least if I did my math correctly, that's where it should be. And I can start to tell that my work is done correctly because it does have this parabolic shape. I'm going up 1, as I move right 1, I'm rising 1, as I move right 2, I'm rising 4. That tends to be kind of that shape. So this is an interesting question about, do you feel that your parabola is graphed correctly? Are you confident or not confident? So before I answer that question, I'm going to just double check my math by using the scientific calculator and plugging in -3 and -4 into this function. So coming over here, I'm going to do -3 squared. And it's very important to put the negative in parentheses when you're squaring it. Otherwise, it's not going to take it as a base of -3. Plus 4 times -3 minus 5, and that is an output of -8. So I feel confident about this ordered pair. Now -4 squared, again, inside of parentheses, plus 4 times -4 minus 5 is -5. So I've now checked that my other inputs on the side of the table produce the same output. So yes, I'm very confident. And it could be something like I checked all of the inputs in my table and my graph forms a parabola. You can use whatever type of explanation you need. So that's what it looks like to find outputs in a quadratic that's in standard form.